Hey,
Hey,
George, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes.
Good, good. I am good too. I like your coffee mug.
Thanks. I figured
Yeah,
to keep the logo on even after it disappeared. Boom.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Present.
For sure. Did you notice, or maybe listeners notice, we do have a new theme song too.
Yes,
It's
I did. I noticed that for the first
I,
time.
I know. Well, it's a little more catchy and it's a little more upbeat, and it's also not copyright restricted. So that's all a
That's the most
plus.
important part.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Um, so how have things been going with you?
Good. Good.
Good.
Let's see. Yeah.
Seen
Just put
some.
my daughter down before we came in here, and
Okay.
now we're recording.
Great. Very good. Um, Seen any good movies lately?
Yeah, so the two movies that I've recently seen, they're in the theaters, or they have been recently. That is Obsession and Toy Story. Those are the two big ones that I've seen recently, and
How now?
yeah,
Refresh me on Obsession.
both of them are really good. Obsession is, I know we got criticized about this before, but about not having our facts straight before, but it was super good. It's a horror film. Um, and but it's not necessarily horror in the way you think of horror, like monsters or demon possession or something like that we see in like classic horror film. It borders on sci-fi kind of, but not really. It's basically just um, this. Just take this I don't know, scenario: someone obsessed with somebody, and then let's just dial it up to 100 and see how that plays out. And that's kind of the scare factor, and so it plays into that. I don't know,
I think
that
I,
feeling.
I think I remember seeing the previews for it, and they said it was one of the. Well, I mean, it may have just been the hype, but it says one of the scariest movies.
Yeah, I jumped out of my seat a couple of times, and
Okay,
we were in the front row, and people were leaving, not even halfway, like right at the
really,
beginning, and it wasn't even the scariest parts, and it made you in some ways almost uncomfortable,
really.
and but at the same time, I do appreciate the conversation that was sparked by it. Um, you know, it was kind of a modern day twist on horror, and there was some gore, some language. So if that's not your cup of tea, then
Mm-hmm.
that's not for you. But
Okay.
it was interesting when it comes to kind of, we're going to talk about men's mental health later, talk
Mm-hmm.
about men's mental health and loneliness and friendship and the importance of communicating and not holding in your how you really feel or think about certain things,
Mm-hmm.
leading people on, misleading people. Those aspects within the movie are interesting. And then it's just the guy who directed it, I remember watching him and his skits on YouTube, and then all of a sudden he's making a $1 million budget film that's now grossed 300 mil, and
Did you,
he's
did
20 years
you
old.
stream it or go to the movie theater?
Went to the theaters. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So is it a woman or a man that's the obsessed person?
So there's this guy, and he makes a wish, and his wish comes true. He makes, well, it's the woman that's obsessed, but he makes a wish that this person would, that he has a crush on, love, that she would love him more than anything else in the world. And then she does, and she becomes obsessed with him to the point that it becomes, you know catastrophic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. Good. I'll check it
Interesting.
out. I'll check it out. That reminds. So before we go to Toy Story, like what is it? Toy Story 6 or something like
Five.
that.
Toy Story 5.
Five. Okay. So toys. So before we go to that, that reminds me. I listened to an interview. Since you're young, you may not remember, but John Hinckley Jr. and he tried to assassinate President Reagan because he was obsessed with Jodie Foster. And he's out now. He was in a mental home or mental institution for 30 years. He's out now and he's free. He's like in his 70s. And I listened to an interview with him, and he
Oh,
just
wow.
talked about that. So basically, like this was 80, 81, 82, 83. I don't know. I can't remember the exact year, but so I was like in elementary school, but he tried to shoot President Reagan and shot
Yeah.
him. But he did it because he wanted Jodie Foster's attention. And so in the interview now, he says, he's over, he realizes that was a huge mistake, and he's not obsessed with Jodie Foster. He only wants the best for her now. But they just said, "Why? How did you get to that?" And he just said, "I was lonely.
Yeah.
I started distancing myself from my own family on purpose." He said they didn't distance themselves from me, but I distanced myself from them. He said he saw the movie Taxi Driver,
Oh yeah.
which Taxi Driver is the plot. Uh, I think it's Robert De Niro
Mm-hmm.
is wanting to assassinate a political figure to impress this character played by Sybil Shepherd,
Yes.
and because she works in his political party or political, like campaign, and
Yes.
then he meets Jodie Foster, who's like an underage uh, prostitute. Anyway,
Right.
and so he started to feel like if he could assassinate somebody political, he would gain Jodie Foster's uh, liking, So it's just insane. It's obviously insane, and he realizes that too. And the interview was really extremely interesting. And he just said, "I realize now. I mean, we weren't having a real relationship." And he said, "While I was in my mental institution, I did have a real relationship with somebody for 20 years. That and I realized that's what real relationships were, and that wasn't. But I began to think this movie was real, and my relationship with her was real, and that would grow. But it all kind of stemmed from loneliness, isolation. But he
Yeah.
said isolation, but by his own choice. So I mean, he
Yeah.
definitely had some obsession, in
That is
a
fascinating.
yeah. It's really wild, and
I could also see how Taxi Driver could, eventually lead to a movie like Obsession.
yeah.
And at the same time, like you're saying, we do have a loneliness epidemic. It feels like,
Hmm.
um, people just do not have friends or care to sometimes connect with people.
Yeah.
And when you do, it's actually life changing. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was
Hmm.
his story. But that reminded me of that. When you said that, that made me think of
Yeah.
that situation. And anyway, he's real opposed to violence. He actually says now, though, that sometimes some uh, people say he needs to assassinate the president now, like from like far out, far left people. And obviously, he's opposed to that, but
Yeah.
it's
Well, I'm
just
glad he came out of this better.
yeah, I mean, he seemed to. He just said he makes money by painting, and he
There
makes
you go.
some songs, and anyway, probably making been paid for interviews. So there's that. Okay, so but
Huh.
anyway, I just thought of that when you said that. It
Yeah, it's an
brought that
interesting
topic up.
thought.
Yeah, yeah. So how was Toy Story 5? Because I've only watched one of them, and I didn't like it. So
You didn't like you didn't like the first one?
no.
Well, I guess it came out when I was the year I was born, and so there we go, it's out.
Yep.
And I remember growing up with the Toy Stories, and especially the first three. I mean, I remember I kind of have the millennial obsession about Toy Story, where it's just been formative
Okay.
and a big part of my childhood, and the VHS tape and remembering Toy
Okay.
Story, and having the toys and the action figures and all that stuff, and reimagining and playing all that, but. Um, did they need a fourth and now a fifth? I think that's debatable. I don't know. It's neat now seeing my kids obsess over it because
True.
I
Okay.
have my 4-year-old daughter who just turned 5, and she had a Toy Story themed birthday party, and we
Yeah.
went to go see Toy Story, and it was a great time. I so I don't, but I don't know if it needed like a fourth and a fifth. Like maybe it should
Right.
have stopped at 3, and now if they continue to go to 6 or 7, I think it's getting crazy where I was thinking this at the end of the movie. This is getting to the point where it's almost like Fast and the Furious. What started off as just like street racing is now like we're racing and we're out in
Everything.
space. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we're
it's
gonna
just
race to the moon.
it's a little too much. But I do appreciate what the conversation around the fifth movie as well, and that it was um, just a message to get off of tech and to start connecting with real life. And it talked about making friends, and how younger people, because they're just so attached to their phones and technology, they're making connections through, technology in a way that's artificial, whereas they could actually kind of play and connect in a real way. And it showed parents on their phones, and it showed kids on their iPads, and the dangers to that, and just wanting a healthy balance of that. And so I thought that was a good message overall for this generation and these kids and parents alike.
Well, so it has become like a cultural thing, I mean, because Alex,
Mhm.
my son, who is 17, 16, almost 17, liked it. He had a Buzz Lightyear. I remember giving him a Buzz Lightyear for Christmas or birthday when he was 5, 6, 7, something
Yeah,
like that. So it is a it is a big deal, and I didn't like I didn't like it for the same reason one of our discussions we'll have later about an actor is that I didn't like it because there's always like a tinge of sadness to it. The
yeah,
toys are kind of
there is.
discarded, and it's not, to me it's not just like blah belly laughs. I mean,
Yeah,
it's kind of like a little laugh, but there's always like that heartwarming, and I don't really want the heartwarming. I just want to laugh.
yeah.
I just
Well,
want.
I think that was Pixar in the '90s. They were less about the humor and more about the heartwarming things.
Yeah,
Finding Nemo, things like that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But I know most of the people loved it. I wouldn't say I hated it. I just didn't need to see more than one. I maybe have seen two of them, maybe so. But I
Yeah,
know I didn't see four. I don't think I saw
I know
four.
pretty much every line from the first one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, then
yeah.
I'm gonna have to get you to quote. That'll be one of your tests, one of your George's gems next time.
Okay, yeah.
I'll find a line. Well, good. Well, good. I'm glad. And did you take the? I guess you took the whole family, right?
Took the whole family, and then we had family from out of town coming. It was a great time. I liked
Good.
it. I liked Toy Story 5. I thought it was
Good.
better than the fourth, but they should stop. It should be done now.
Stop. Okay. Well, we watched this. We streamed a movie called Murder Among Friends, and
Mm,
it looked really good in the previews. It was a group of people go on this weekend to this British mansion, and somebody gets killed. And that's it. They said, if you love Agatha Christie, which we've discussed that I
there you
love,
go.
then it would
You
be
do.
great. It also had, and you won't probably won't know this person, but it had Joan Collins, who was in the TV show Dynasty from the 80s, and she's like very British, very like over the top, just a lot of campy kind of fun. We were like, oh, this is gonna be so good. It turned out to be like okay. We watched it as a
Yeah.
we watched it as a family. That may not have been the best choice either. It was just it had some weird plot lines, but overall it wasn't really much of a mystery either. You kind of knew who you kind of could tell who it was from the beginning. It was a brand new movie, but it was straight to streaming. So that maybe should have been our first hint there. But they stream so many things now that I thought that necessarily wouldn't matter, and it seemed like just the type of movie that we would like. But I wouldn't call it bad, but I definitely would not call it great, and I really probably would not really recommend it.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was just okay. I mean, it was fine for an evening of us sitting around watching TV, the three of us watching TV. But
So
besides
was
that,
it like a whodunit in a sense?
supposed to be, yeah, it's supposed to be. So they all go. There's six couples, and Joan Collins is this kind of rich grand dame type woman that lives in like this big mansion, and they go and stay in her mansion. But she also does reality shows, and she solves crimes on these reality shows. And so
Mm,
she inserts herself to try and solve this crime. One of these people, there's three couples, so one of the six gets murdered. And so it's a whodunit from there. That's not giving really anything away. So one of them gets murdered, and it's a whodunit from there. But it really wasn't that twisty. There was a few twists, but it was kind of
yeah.
straightforward, and you could kind of pick out what was going on. I feel like
You could kind of guess who done it
yeah.
before it ended.
So this woman Joan Collins is like 94, and she looks amazing and acted, and so that was a highlight. But the rest of it was okay. I just call it okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so I would not race out to see it.
or race to your couches to see
Or
it. Yeah.
race to your couch to stream it. Yeah, that's exactly right. We both, as a group, went and saw Jerry Seinfeld
Yes,
too.
we did. We saw Jerry the other day.
It was. What did you think?
I thought it was amazing.
It
I
was
went
so
in
funny.
skeptical. I went in
Really?
thinking, he's older. Do I love Jerry Seinfeld? Do I love the show? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
he's older. Maybe he's a little washed up. Is he going to have new material? You
Yeah.
just see this in
Yeah.
pop culture in general,
Yeah.
whether it be, musicians and other artists who um, just don't have it anymore, don't have that spark. But I mean, he presented material that was new and fresh, and I was laughing the whole time. It was
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed so hard. Sometimes, I mean, my eyes were crossing, my eyes were watering from just laughing so much at him. And, so like an iconic thing for me growing, well, not necessarily growing up, but my, I guess, high school, college, young professional years was Seinfeld, the show. And
Mm.
it was just like everybody watched it. It was the number one show for years. And I just loved it because it wasn't heartwarming. It was just nonsense. It was funny. It was dumb. There was no redeeming values. They didn't teach me a lesson. It was just over, and you laughed, and you're like, okay. They were all kind of,
It was a show about nothing.
yeah, it was a show about nothing, and they were all a little selfish. They're all friends, but a little selfish too.
Oh,
And it
they're
was just,
actually horrible people. That's why I
yeah,
love George.
yeah, yes, they're all just very self. I mean, they were kind of friends to each other, but sort of,
Yes.
but
Yes.
very, yeah. It wasn't like yeah. So that's what I just loved about it. And so I was so excited to see that he was coming. I just said, we got to go because I've missed him several times. Well, sometimes we've gone to Las Vegas and he will have been there. One time, oddly enough, I went to Reno for a bodybuilding show, and he was going to be at the hotel I was at next weekend. So just stuff like that, and I was like,
Yeah.
I really want to see him. So we saw him, and I loved it. It was just, it was. I laughed, I laughed so hard. He had some really funny jokes about marriage. It was hilarious about marriage, and
They were deep and silly too, and
yeah.
it was super good.
But if I
Yeah.
quote him or tell him, I've tried to tell a few people how funny it was, but when I tell it, everybody's kind of like, okay, because it's his delivery that's funny, and the way he
Yes.
said it,
Half of it is
and
delivery.
his delivery and the way he does it, and just him, he was really funny. So it was really,
Hmm.
really good. Yeah.
You could tell he's the goats, if not the goat, at best. And
Yep.
there's just something about he knows the game, he knows the system. Perfect. When you saw his opener, he was all right, and he had an essence of Jerry. But even if you gave that guy Jerry's jokes, it wouldn't come off the same because you're right. There's just
No.
something about the way
No.
he delivers it.
Well,
And I've been thinking
and for
about it
anybody that's
since
wondering,
I've seen it.
yeah, I agree, and I would go see him again in a minute, and I'd love to
I
actually
would too.
been able to have a video of it and watch again if I'm like in a bad mood or something, just laugh again. But I will for anybody that sometimes you'll see comedians that you think are going to be clean, and it's just really filthy or really dirty. It was overall a pretty like clean show, family friendly show. I
No,
mean,
it was very clean. Yeah.
yeah, nothing, nothing really, nothing dirty, nothing, could
No,
take your whole family. It was just funny stuff about life that's funny that
exactly
that you
right.
can agree with and laugh about, and it was just stuff like that.
Yep.
And one of the funniest parts was, at the end they asked him questions, and he just said, "I don't remember anything about Seinfeld at all. I remember like 3 episodes." And he named out the three, and and then he just said, "I don't even remember anything about it." Like, next question. He was just kind of like,
He's like, you can
like,
watch it. You can watch him at your house.
yeah. He's like, that phase of my life is over. I don't even remember. But everything was kind of like that. Like, everything's kind of moderately stupid. Marriage is kind of
Yes.
stupid, and just everything was kind of that way, but in a funny way. Just his funny delivery.
Well,
So.
I love that even the show, and I think there's just an essence about Jerry that's like this. Even though the show is about nothing, there there's that show is also about everything. right?
Uh-huh.
I can quote that show, or I can apply it to so many different
Uh-huh.
aspects about
Yeah.
life. Like there was
Yeah.
a moment I was like, oh, that's that episode of Jerry, and
Yep.
we're just experiencing normal life. And so
Yep.
the show about nothing and yet everything at the exact same time, because I think that's often life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the whole day before we were going to go there, I kept singing the theme song, which was a very short theme song, but I go, "Did." You remember it'd start like a scene off that way or end it
Yes.
that way. Or, bah, 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 bah.
Yep.
Anyway, I was so excited. Anyway, but yeah, you're exactly right, and it was a great night. It was a lot of fun, so that was good. Okay, so we had discussed also. So June is Men's Mental Health Month, and we
Yes.
are at the tail end of June. This may even be in July. You might even watch the show in July, but you can still participate in what the month of June meant to, as Mental Health Month. I think it's okay to think about other things, even in other months. Probably, most probably. So
Specifically men's mental health. You can think
men's
about that throughout the year.
you can think
Yeah.
about that all the time. And so you the other day had an interesting comment or interesting statistic that I think it was 1 out of 4 young boys or teenage boys don't have what they consider a good friend. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned that in my sermon on Father's Day that 1 in 4 children do not have any friends, not even a close friend, and
Why do you
that's
think that
interesting.
is?
I think it is probably a lack of genuine connection. We kind of talked about this a little bit with the whole like Toy Story thing, and you know, kind of being on our phones, digitally just connected a bit more than we are personally. But at the same time, I think it's also community and um, and not having that sense of we're just at home a lot more, and we're not out connecting with certain events and things like that. If we do go to my kids went to today tennis camp. They got tennis camp, and we may go to all these
Good
different
for
camps,
them.
but we're just checking off a box on a list, and we're not actually making connections. We can do the same thing when even these events are kind of fake in a sense,
Yeah.
that they're good for the kids. But I
Yeah.
think kids should have a good, long-lasting community where they can connect not just with kids their age, but also even adults and
Yeah.
adults that aren't their parents as well. That helps them influence. And being a Christian myself and preacher, I see that community being the church and God's kingdom when done. Um, when done in a way that reflects the love of Christ, can be
Mm-hmm.
extremely beneficial in someone's life. And so that's kind of my take on it. It is a problem, and I see it often. And I remember growing up the first decade of my life and having a really close, couple friends, and we were thick as thieves, and we go do everything together. We
Mm-hmm.
from everything playing video games to just taking the four wheelers out and just going through the snow,
Mm-hmm.
on tubes and things like that, or just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things that kids do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's super impactful. And if we don't have that, if our kids don't have that type of connection, I think that really creates some maybe some future mental health problems,
Yep.
perhaps.
Well, so for instance, um, you know, we had a show. I complained about people that are slow texters. Well, it's like even the newest generation of people are like no texters. So Alex will tell me, my son, Alex, are you there? Do you want to pop on for a second? He
Yeah.
tells me that, people. Hey,
I'm here.
so in your generation, people are awful texters, aren't they?
We just don't text at all.
See, so how do you
In
can?
all honesty, like
But you also don't call each other on the phone, right?
calling's worse because you could be out doing something, or it just becomes a distraction at times because I could be playing video games, or I could be doing something, building something,
Oh, we
and
wouldn't want to
just
distract
going
from video games, would we?
texting. Texting someone's much faster, and calling can take time.
but they don't respond to. So I'll ask him, did you ask so and so if he wants to go play tennis? Yeah, but he never replied. And then like a
It
day
happens a
later,
lot.
so and so will go, oh, my phone died and I never plugged it in, or I didn't have my phone
I
with me.
forget quite often to plug my phone in at night,
You do. You're an awful texter
all the time.
yourself. You're worse than George is even. So my point is that it's hard. I'm not saying texting is making friends, but it is a way to communicate or connect.
Yeah.
If you can't even connect to make plans, because you don't always see somebody in person, if you can't even connect that way, then, and like Alex just said, it takes time away from, I might be playing a video game, so that can be
Mm,
a big thing that isolates people. So anyway,
yeah,
okay. Thanks for your input, Mister. Bye.
that's interesting. Yeah, maybe
Uh,
what it is that we're not even using
our phones for
our
communication
tech in a
anymore. Yeah.
useful way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but people in that, even in the younger generation than you, are, just don't even want to text, don't even want. So it's even harder to,
Yeah.
in my opinion, to even, how do you even communicate? How do you make
It, in
communication?
my experience, it seems like as I've connected with people and um, just as a preacher, just kind of you know, quote unquote, counseled people, what I've noticed is that, especially later in life, if they feel a little depressed or they're my age and life hasn't gone their way, a lot of it is due to a sense of loneliness.
Uh huh. Yeah.
That seems to just be a
So
recurring theme every single time.
it's just an isolation. When I was a kid, we didn't have, I mean, there wasn't texting. So I had a few friends. We played tennis a lot. They called, say, you want to go play tennis? We'd play tennis. Do that. We'd hang out.
Yeah.
We would do stuff like that, and I don't really keep in touch with them except maybe through a little bit like Facebook now. But it's good memories. I had memories of friends from church. Alex has friends, obviously from church, but if you don't have that, or you don't have some sort of social group, communications back can be hard. Now that's teenage. Now I did read also, like, a statistic is that 75 to 80% of uh, suicides are men under 50, and
Under
that's
50?
under 50 even. So
Interesting.
that's even more alarming. And I think the reason is because men don't want to share their feelings, especially with other men. So if they've had feelings of failure, or you know lost their job, lost their spouse, you know done something poorly, they don't want to share that with other people, other men. The culture is not built around men wanting to share their feelings and share how they feel. It's okay for
Yeah.
women to do that. It's even, and even in social media, I see, you know, men sharing something and women acting like that's stupid. That's not a man that I would want as someone that, shares, is, cries or shares their feelings. I don't actually want to cry a whole lot either, or but it's like, if you don't
I
have
don't
an,
even like, sharing my feelings and how I
right,
feel about
but if
things.
you
Yeah.
don't have an outlet, then it builds up. I feel like women also probably are better at supporting one another. I don't know if men might be good with supporting each other in the way, like, hey, you want to go play, pickleball, but to really like sit down and me tell you problems I'm having, I don't, that's difficult to do, because
Yeah, men often
that shows
connect shoulder to shoulder instead of face to face.
yeah, that's good thoughts, but that shows imperfections, and I think
Yeah.
men have, you know women have a better, maybe have a better, or more willing to share their feelings, want to share their feelings, maybe have more of a support system. Men are unwilling to, and I think that is what leads to more suicides, or more, more depression or things like that. So,
Yes,
um,
and what's interesting too is there's a dark side to friends too, where I know, thinking back at my teen years, a lot of times my biggest regrets come from the friends that I made as well. And so sometimes the connections you can make, if they're not good connections, can actually
yeah,
lead to more regrets as well. And so it's important that the people you surround yourself with and the friends that you decide to be close to are those that are going to actually make you better humans.
that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
ones that you feel like you can go to
Yeah.
discuss things with. So I just say, I don't know if we have the answer for everything, but I would say I'm always open if someone wants to come and talk to me. I probably should be way better about sharing problems. Sometimes I spit out my feelings, but it's more like a complaint, not really
Yes.
my deep, my problems I'm having. So I just feel like, people, men especially, should be more willing to, to share and discuss and things like that and make better connections.
Yes.
So,
I
yeah,
like to remind people, there's no amount of self-hatred. You don't hate yourself more than God loves you.
that's
And
right.
that's really important to remember. And there's
Yeah.
no amount of self-hatred or trauma or past experiences that can keep you from that.
And no
Yeah.
situation is perfect.
Yes.
There's no situation. No one has a perfect life, and then there's no situation you can't usually work through as well, too.
Yeah.
You can look back in several years and that situation's behind you, and you've moved on. So there's no permanent. It's never no bad situation is a permanent situation. So anyway, so that's
Yeah.
I found it interesting to think about that there was so much more male suicide than female suicide. So just some interesting thoughts there. So okay, so not to end on that necessarily on that note.
On a downer. Yeah.
On a
Take care of your
downer,
mental health, everybody.
yeah. So this, I don't know if this is a Phillips pet peeve, but it's maybe a Phillips
Okay.
discussion. Is that the other night? So you and I were talking, and it kind of came up. I don't like Tom Hanks, and
Yes.
I know
Yeah,
Tom
you had a
Hanks.
hot take.
Yeah, I had a hot take. Tom Hanks, I know, is beloved and beloved by the world, but not by this world. And Tom Hanks, I know, is also in Toy Story, and
Yes.
so part of the reason, you can offer your rebuttal of why you think Tom Hanks is loved. I don't like him because his movies are boring to me. I mean, they're not funny. They're not funny like as in belly laugh funny, but they're also
Yeah.
like not. Like some of these romantic comedies he was in are just like boring. And it's kind of like funny, like yeah, that's funny, but it's
Little
not. Yeah,
chuckles.
that's cute. I think he went off the rails for me. I mean, it went early because Big went off the rails for me because
That was really early.
it was early, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
it was moderately funny, but not that funny. And then once again, like movies I don't like, it had a sad ending because he went back to being a kid, and he'd kind of made a relationship, and it was just like, I mean, I just I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, and I feel like he tries to be a very oversensitive man. I'm very feeling, very into
We
his.
just talked about
I
mental
know, I,
health.
I know, but I know.
Yeah. Talk about your feelings,
But
but don't do it like Tom Hanks.
don't talk about your feelings, but don't do it in movies.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's almost an act, like I'm the sensitive guy, and that's how I'm gonna be perceived. So you tell me why. I'm sure you love him. Tell me why you
That's
love him.
interesting. Yeah. Because I was trying to think of a movie in which he was like macho.
Oh, that's another point. The Da Vinci Code movies. He was macho in that, and he was awful at it.
Yeah, not his
And
best look. Not his best
no,
work. I
and
will agree with you on
they
that.
had him in a speedo. We don't need to see that. That is not what he needs to be wearing on
I didn't
camera.
see that, and I'm glad I won't ever see
Well,
that.
he's supposed to be. So the character itself, I've read the books, and the character itself, he is a swimmer. So Robert Langdon, the character, would go and swim laps. So
Okay.
that fits in. He's like I mean, he's a true, he's a true swimmer. But we don't want to see Tom Hanks doing that, okay? And also, Robert Langdon was supposed to be, kind of like a Harrison Ford type, sort of almost like an Indiana Jones ish, if I could say that. Harrison Ford Hugh Jackman would have been a perfect person to play the role. Tom Hanks did not fit that role either. So
I can see that.
to me, he, and also he kind of had a droopy chin in the movie too, and I didn't like that. So those are all the things. So even his macho movie was not good. His his touchy feely movies I didn't like. That's all I got.
I'm trying to think of the most macho he's ever been, and a couple of them do pop out at me now that I'm going through a list of some of his movies. I'm looking at all these movies too, and they are, I don't know, they're amazing. Like a lot of them are, and like he's been in some of the best movies ever.
Uh-huh.
His News of the World was, I mean, he had a pistol. But I think the most macho is probably Road to Redemption. So good, where he kind of plays a mobster of some sorts. Um,
Okay. I mean I have to admit I'm not
yeah.
familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that.
Those are good.
So
I mean, I've seen a lot of these. Saving Mr. Banks, The Man with One Red Shoe. That was one of his, probably not his
I remember
best.
that.
Um, uh,
Maybe
yeah, I mean, he's just, I don't know. They're all really good. Road Redemption is a super good movie. A Beautiful Day, where he's Mr. Rogers, Turner and Hooch. Those are
he
classics. But
did.
then you have
See, okay, see, I didn't like Turner and Hooch because the dog dies at the end.
well, I
And
don't know how much of this is actually his fault, and it is like the movies, I guess, that he decides to play in. But then you have, Forrest Gump, and I don't know.
I
There's
just,
so many.
I just think he's very much a girly man, and
Castaway, Green Mile, Saving Private Ryan. I mean, that's another one.
I
You
didn't.
know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. So I'll tell you that the best thing he was ever in was this TV show called Bosom Buddies, and it was 100 years ago. It was his first thing. It was him and Peter Scolari, and they had to live. They couldn't find a place to live, so they had to live in this all-female building. So they had to dress up like women to play like they were women living
I
there.
guess your theory's checking out.
And that was like back in the 80s again. That was early 80s.
Yeah.
And that show was hilarious. So that was hilarious, and so I expect him to be hilarious. But after that, he was kind of just like heartwarming, and just anyway. Those are my 2 cents. I'm sure
You're all right. A lot of the movies that he's in does do end wrong. Like Road to Redemption is a sad ending. Not wrong, but they do end pretty sad. Saving Private Ryan, basically the exact
Yes.
same ending.
Yeah.
Castaway is still. I
Yeah.
like the ending, but it's not necessary. But again, I don't mind sad endings.
Well,
I kind of like sad
I just
endings.
feel like he tries. I don't know. And then the movie that I would think I would love him in, the Da Vinci Code movies, the Robert Langdon movies, because I read all those books. I loved them. I was so excited, and he was a total miscast for it. Total
Yeah.
miscast. So he brought the whole shebang down.
Yeah.
So
He was a
anyway,
miscast for that.
I just have a
agree.
grudge against all that. But so we do have one more. We got some viewer comments, and
Okay.
last week we were trying to say who we look like as actors. Well, someone posted that you look like Tom Holland. That should be yours, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't totally see that myself.
I don't see it myself, but I am flattered. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go with.
I got the
Tom.
same height though. That counts for anything.
Y'all are the same height.
I don't know, but I'm not necessarily tall.
I don't totally see it myself, but someone
Yeah.
felt that. No one.
I wish I had a
commented-
British accent as well.
Yeah, he's kind of odd himself, So
I love Tom Holland.
He's good. He's good. Yeah, he's good.
He has such a charisma about him.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that is true. So maybe I'm sure it was meant as a compliment. Nobody told me what they thought I looked like, or if I looked like anybody different. So I don't know. I think I've gotten Jason Stratham a lot in the past, so maybe that was the
I think that's who it is. That and Dana White. Yep.
Dana White. Yeah, I don't like the Dana White thing though, but
I know.
yeah. He's gotten a little heavy lately, but besides
Oh,
that,
that's true, yeah.
he is a tough guy. So, Tom
tough
Holland, nice looking guy. Yeah, he is a nice looking guy. So that is a compliment there too as well. So yeah. All right, you got anything else you want to wrap up with?
Nope.
Okay, well we got
nothing.
some guests underway. We will have some guests in the next couple of shows, I'm sure
Yeah.
of it, and we've got them underway. Just kind of getting schedulings down, so we look forward to bringing them on. Anybody
Yeah.
have any suggestions or anybody they want us to talk to? Feel free to let us know.
Yep.
And if you will subscribe to the podcast and like
Yep.
it and comment,
Like and subscribe.
we would love all that too as well.
Make comments. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for
Absolutely.
listening.
For sure. Yeah. Y'all have a great rest of the day, and thanks for tuning in. We love y'all. Bye.